Hello everyone, welcome to New Wellness Concepts and today's My Wellness session. This is actually My Wellness session number 11 and we're going to talk about sleep. A lot of people think when we talk about wellness that we are talking about things that take a tremendous amount of effort and energy, and this is actually a pretty simple way to improve your health overall, and all you need to do is get a little more sleep. People a lot of times think, well, what's the difference? You know, another hour here or there, how can it make that much difference? And it actually does. There's a lot of science behind this, and we're not going to go into great detail on the science, but there is a tremendous amount of research on how much improving your sleep pattern can do for you. So let's get started. Basically, adults need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It varies from individual to individual, but if you're not getting that much sleep, you're probably not getting enough. A lot of people say, oh, I do fine on 5 hours. Well, you may function, but your body is not recovering like it needs to. Kids need more than that. Kids need 9, 10 hours, sometimes even more, depending on how active they are and growth spurts and things like that. So getting enough sleep is very important. Now, short-term sleep deprivation or sleep disturbance, fairly obvious. You start losing alertness, you feel kind of groggy. Your memory may seem like it's off a little bit. It can actually even cause accidents around the home, around work, things like that. But we're going to talk more about the long-term effects of sleep deprivation or lack of sleep, which can lead to disease, actually. It has been related to high blood pressure, heart attacks, diabetes, even kidney dysfunctions. It can lead to obesity and even Alzheimer's disease. So it certainly affects the body as a whole. Now, when you get enough sleep, the immune system is bolstered. It has proteins that are released that make the general immune function better in the body. It also releases growth hormone. Growth hormone is important for the physical body to repair itself. So again, if you're active, you work hard, things like that, you got to get enough sleep so that you can repair the muscles, the tendons, that kind of thing. So when we lack sleep, one of the things that it affects is our appetite. There are hormones that regulate our appetite. The first thing that can happen is you get a decrease in leptin. Leptin is a hormone that actually affects our metabolism, basically. You burn fewer calories when you lower the leptin levels, so you're not going to burn calories like you normally would if you got enough sleep. The other thing that happens is there's a hormone called ghrelin, and it increases. Well, increased ghrelin actually causes us to crave more food. We get hungrier and we crave foods that are higher in calories, like sugar, things like that. So it actually affects the kinds of food we start to crave. We want that energy. Another thing that can happen when you don't get enough sleep is your body can release cortisol. Cortisol is actually a stress hormone. We've talked about that in the past, but cortisol tends to make us store fat, and a lot of times it makes us store fat right in the midsection, and obviously that's an issue. That can also lead to a increase in insulin resistance, which the next step then is diabetes, and again, obviously it can all lead to obesity. So certainly a way to try to control weight is to get enough sleep. This science has been done and done. Another thing about lack of sleep is it increases your risk of Alzheimer's disease. There is a gentleman named Jeff Iliff, I believe is how you say his name, I-L-I-F-F, and it's very interesting research on how the brain works and what happens in patients with Alzheimer's disease. When your brain is active and it's churning all day, every day, it actually creates a byproduct called amyloid beta, and that's really not all that important. It's just basically a garbage that is created in the brain due to the activity of the brain, but that needs cleared away. And what he discovered was there is a special flushing system that flushes out amyloid beta. Amyloid beta actually is found in increased levels in Alzheimer's patients. That's why it's so interesting. But what it does, when we sleep, the specialized plumbing in the brain allows for cerebral spinal fluid to course through the brain to the deepest areas of the brain and remove the amyloid beta, which reduces your risk for Alzheimer's disease. But again, this really occurs mostly when you're asleep. So getting that restful sleep can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease. Lack of sleep can also lower testosterone levels in the body. Again, this is a hormone that is related actually to the sex drive. This can actually affect men and women and lower the desire for sex. That in turn can also lead to mood changes and even depression. So again, sleep regulates a lot of these hormones. Another thing that lack of sleep affects is your ability to tolerate pain. So if you deal with any kind of chronic pain issue and you're not getting enough sleep, obviously you're going to probably feel more discomfort. So again, sleep, very important for many functions of the body. Okay, so now let's talk about what are we going to do? How are we going to fix that? How are we going to improve sleep? What do I do? Well, there are a lot of things you can do, but we're going to try to hit the highlights. First and foremost, sleep is a pattern. It's a habit. It's the body's internal clock, and you need to set that clock. So go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. Even if you're not quite ready to go to bed, go to bed. Even if you're not quite ready to get up, get up. Okay. Another thing that affects that internal clock is light. When it's time to go to bed, try not to have all the lights in the house blazing as you're brushing your teeth. The bathroom doesn't need to be lit like a Christmas tree. Try to dampen the light of an evening to try to prepare for time to go to bed. Same thing in the morning. When you get up in the morning, turn the lights on, open the shades, get some sunlight coming in as soon as you can. If you get up before the sun's up, then certainly getting the lights on. They even make light boxes for just such a thing to get that internal clock kind of set, so to speak. Another issue kind of goes hand in hand with this is electronics. Electronics like computer screens, close and the big TV screens, a lot of light right before bed, even the big handheld phones right up close to your face, you're getting all this light input. Kind of makes it hard for the brain to settle down and be ready for bed. Another thing about electronics is having them in the bedroom. A lot of the cell phones, when they go off, they practically light up the room, even if the sound is off. Certainly if the sound's on, that can disrupt your sleep very easily. So watching the cell phones, especially kids, get the cell phones out of the kids' bedrooms. You would probably be shocked to realize how much sleep your child is losing because their phone is disrupting them throughout the night. Other things like the television, it's a strobe light. Even if you have your eyes closed, you can see that bright and dark through your eyelids, and it can certainly wake you up. A lot of people say, well, I want that noise. I like the noise of the TV. If you need noise, use a fan. They actually make noise machines that you can buy fairly inexpensively to have the white noise, we call it, that can blot out some of the external noises that might wake you up. So certainly that's a consideration, but try to keep the electronics out of the bedroom as best you can. Now, another thing is alcohol. Try to keep alcohol to a reasonable amount. Again, generally speaking, we talk about 2 to 3 drinks for men, 1 to 2 drinks for women is kind of the cap. And try not to get it too close to time to go to bed. When your body is metabolizing alcohol, it can reduce the restful sleep that you're going to get, and it can even wake you up when the body is breaking down the alcohol. It might wake you up and cause kind of an insomnia through the night. So watch alcohol too close to bedtime. Caffeine, obviously an issue. Try to avoid caffeine actually 6 or 7 hours before bedtime, depending on when you go to bed. And don't overdo caffeine prior to that. Try to use moderation with the caffeine even hours prior to that 6 or 7 hour window. Exercise also. Exercise can actually be very beneficial to help you go to sleep, but if you put the exercise too close to bedtime, sometimes it can be a little bit too stimulating, and therefore the body is not quite ready to wind down and go to bed. So again, it's different from person to person. I'm going to say 3 hours, give or take. Before bedtime, you should be done with any exercise routine that you're planning to do. Careful with large meals, close to bedtime especially. Overeating like that, again, the metabolism, it just kind of gets churning and can disrupt the sleep. You want to watch the bright lights, even we talked about earlier, but even through the night. So if you get up in the middle of the night, opening the refrigerator, bright light stimulates you. If you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, don't flip on all the lights. Use night lights, or close to the floor where you don't get any trip hazards. But certainly don't flip on every light in the house if you got to get up in the middle of the night. Again, it makes it that much harder to go back to sleep. Also, some people like to sleep with their pets, with dogs, cats, things like that, in the bed. That can actually be an issue if the dog or cat gets up and moves around. Believe it or not, it might jostle you enough to wake you up. So you got to be careful with that as well. So again, just some ideas about how to improve your sleep pattern, what you can do to help. Getting enough sleep, even just an hour more than you were getting, can create a lot of health benefits. It's not anything strenuous, and it's something that's fairly easily worked on a nightly basis. So I hope this is helpful, and let's try to get a little more rest.